Popcorn drifts through the evening air. Somewhere behind us, ice rattles into paper cups. A speaker crackles softly beside an open car window, carrying music that seems to float above the rows of parked cars. The screen stands enormous against the darkening sky. Children run between bumpers while their parents unfold lawn chairs beside. Station wagons. Teenagers lean against polished hoods. A young couple shares a paper tray of fries balanced carefully between them. Engines tick quietly as they cool. The sun has only just disappeared, leaving a band of orange along the horizon. Above it, the first stars begin to appear. The giant screen waits patiently, glowing pale white before the picture begins. You can hear dozens of small sounds at once: a soda bottle opening, a car door closing, someone laughing several rows away, the gentle hum of radios connected to speaker boxes hanging from half-open windows. For a little while, every family seems to arrive from a different direction, yet all of them end up here. Cars settle into neat rows facing the same light. The outside world becomes distant, streets empty, televisions remain dark, supper dishes sit washed in kitchen sinks. Everything feels gathered together. The snack bar windows shine brightly against the night. Teenagers stand in line with pockets full of coins. Parents carry cardboard trays loaded with drinks. Children stare at candy displays as if they might stay there forever. The movie has not even started, and already the evening feels complete. The breeze moves gently through the speaker poles. Somewhere nearby, a baby falls asleep in the back seat. Someone spreads a blanket across the hood of a car. Someone else adjusts the antenna, searching for a clearer sound. The giant screen finally comes alive. Light washes across hundreds of windshields. Faces become silver for a moment. The entire neighborhood seems to breathe together. This place feels permanent tonight. The rows of cars, the glowing snack bar, the music before the previews, the feeling that next summer will look exactly the same. If you grew up in this era, you remember a place like this. The drive-in sits at the edge of town, exactly where it has always been, holding another summer evening in its hands. The film begins to flicker. The stars grow brighter overhead, and for these few hours, nothing outside the lot seems to matter at all. The movie continues to dance across the screen while the night settles deeper around us. Cars sit quietly beneath the stars. The snack bar lights glow like a small town of their own. Somewhere near the back row, a radio speaker crackles with a voice that has traveled across the darkness. It is hard to imagine that this evening has a beginning. It is even harder to imagine that it has an end. But you and I are going to walk through the whole life of this neighborhood drive-in. We will stand beside it on the day the first posts rise from the ground. We will watch families discover it. We will sit through its brightest summers and its longest nights, and slowly, we will watch the world around it change, because places like this are not only built from concrete and steel, they are built from routines, Friday evenings, first dates, children asleep in back seats, the same familiar road leading toward the edge of town. One small fact remains quietly in the background. By 1971, thousands of drive-ins still operate across America, making the outdoor theater one of the country's favorite evening destinations. Tonight, ours seems untouchable. The screen stands tall, the lot is full, the concession stand is busy, yet somewhere far ahead, there is a final evening waiting. A night when the lights will switch off, the speakers will fall silent, and people will drive away without realizing they may never return. That ending is already coming. We simply cannot see it yet. If you love bringing lost places back to life, consider subscribing to The Way We Were so you do not miss the next one. For now, we stay here a little longer. We listen to the distant laughter. We watch headlights move slowly between the rows. We follow this place from its first hopeful days to its final quiet moments. We will see what it meant to a neighborhood and what happens when a familiar place slowly disappears from the map. Because by the end of our journey, the screen will be gone, the speaker poles will be gone, and the empty field left behind may barely remember that any of this was ever here. But tonight the lights are still shining. Morning sunlight falls across an empty field at the edge of town. There is no screen yet, no speaker poles, no rows of cars stretching into the darkness, only grass moving gently in the wind and a few wooden stakes pressed into the ground. Men walk slowly across the property carrying measuring tape. Trucks arrive one by one. The sound of hammers begins to echo across the open land. Dust rises behind heavy equipment. Nearby houses watch quietly from a distance, uncertain about what is being built. The town itself still feels young. New neighborhoods are spreading outward. Small ranch houses appear along fresh streets. Families arrive carrying boxes into homes that smell of paint and lumber. Children ride bicycles where farmland stood only a few years earlier. The drive-in belongs to this moment. It promises something simple. A movie without walls. You stay in your own car, you bring your children, you wear your work clothes if you want, you arrive early and watch the sunset while waiting for the first picture to appear. One small fact remains: during the years after the Second World War, drive-ins spread rapidly across America as suburban communities continued to grow. The giant screen slowly rises. Steel beams climb into the sky. Workers bolt sections together while neighbors stop along the roadside to watch. At night, the unfinished frame stands against the stars like something impossible. The concession building follows, then the speaker poles, then the ticket booth near the entrance road. Each new piece feels like a promise. People begin talking about it at grocery stores, at church gatherings, in barbershops. Someone says the opening will happen before summer. Someone else says there will be cartoons for children before the main feature. You can almost hear the excitement moving through the neighborhood. The first cars arrive before the opening night even begins. Families drive past slowly to look at the screen. Teenagers park nearby and wonder what it will be like. Children count the speaker posts as if they are fence rails stretching into forever. The lot still smells of fresh gravel. The paint is new. The snack bar shelves are being stocked. Even the ticket booth windows shine differently. Opening night arrives beneath a warm evening sky. Cars line the entrance road long before darkness falls. Fathers lean against fenders while children run between parked cars. Mothers unfold blankets and arrange sandwiches brought from home. The employees inside the concession stand move quickly, still learning where everything belongs. The screen glows for the first time. A projector begins to turn. Light travels through the darkness and lands on the giant white surface that has been waiting for this moment. People applaud, some laugh because they do not know what else to do. For a few seconds, the entire neighborhood shares the same feeling. They are watching something brand new, yet it already feels familiar. If you grew up in this era, you remember a place like this. The drive-in quickly becomes more than a business. It becomes a meeting place, a landmark. Directions around town begin to include it. Turn left at the drive-in, meet me by the drive-in, we will go after supper. Summer evenings settle into a new routine. Children know exactly where the road leads. Teenagers count the days until another weekend arrives. Young couples discover a little privacy beneath the stars, and the people who built it stand quietly near the back rows, watching headlights fill the lot. The screen they imagined now stands illuminated against the night. The empty field is gone. In its place is something larger than they expected, a place where hundreds of separate lives gather together beneath one sky. For years, it stands at the center of everything. The lights shine brighter each season, and the parking rows fill with familiar faces. The neighborhood drive-in is about to enter its brightest years. The sun sinks slowly behind the screen. Children are already chasing one another between the rows of parked cars. Radios play softly through open windows. The smell of buttered popcorn drifts across the lot while the first mosquitoes begin to appear in the evening air. This is the hour the drive-in seems to come alive. Every parking space feels familiar. The same station wagons arrive each weekend. The same pickup trucks settle near the back rows. The same teenagers circle the lot before choosing where to park. The neighborhood has learned its rhythm. People leave home after supper. Fathers check the gas gauge. Mothers gather blankets from the hall. Closet, children carry pillows still warm from their beds. The road leading toward the drive-in becomes a slow parade of headlights. The evening itself becomes part of the movie. One small fact quietly sits in the background. During the late 1950s and 1960 seconds, many drive-ins added playgrounds and family attractions to encourage people to arrive before sunset. And so children climb jungle gyms near the screen. They swing beneath colored lights. They laugh while the sky slowly darkens overhead. Parents watch from folding chairs nearby, enjoying a few peaceful moments before the movie begins. The concession stand becomes the true center of the place. Its windows glow brightly against the night. Soda machines hum. Popcorn machines work constantly. The smell of hot dogs, candy, and fresh coffee mixes together beneath fluorescent lights. Teenagers gather there because everyone passes through eventually. Friends meet unexpectedly. Neighbors stop and talk. Young couples share baskets of fries. Coins slide across countertops. Ice rattles into paper cups. Someone drops a handful of change. Someone else studies the candy display for far too long. Inside this small building, the entire town seems to cross paths. Friday nights feel different from Saturdays. On Friday evenings, fathers arrive still wearing work clothes. There, Hands smell faintly of factories, garages, or machine shops. Saturday nights feel more relaxed. Families stay later. Teenagers linger after the movie ends. Summer becomes the drive-in's favorite season. The air stays warm, windows remain open. Children fall asleep in back seats beneath thin blankets. Some families bring lawn chairs and sit beside their cars. Others spread quilts directly on the grass. The movie becomes only one part of the experience. The stars overhead become another. You can hear crickets during quiet scenes. You can feel cool air moving through the rows. You can see the distant glow of town beyond the screen. If you grew up in this era, you remember a place like this. For teenagers, the drive-in becomes something entirely different. It is freedom. A driver's license means you can finally arrive without your parents. Cars become private spaces. First dates happen beneath the speaker box hanging from the window. Nervous conversations begin. While previews play across the screen, some people remember every movie. Others only remember who sat beside them. Young couples hold hands for the first time here. High school friends gather in groups near the back rows. Cars fill with laughter long after the credits have finished. Entire relationships begin beneath these lights. The neighborhood drive-in slowly becomes woven into ordinary life. Birthday parties happen here, after church evenings. Happen here. Celebrations after baseball games happen here. Even people who rarely watch movies still come because everyone else is coming. The screen grows familiar. The ticket booth becomes familiar. The route through town becomes familiar. Children who once fell asleep in the back seat begin returning as teenagers with cars of their own. Years pass almost without notice. New films arrive. New cars appear in the parking rows. The children become parents. Yet the drive-in itself seems unchanged. The speaker poles still stand. The concession stand still glows. The giant screen still rises above the evening sky. There is comfort in that. Some places seem permanent simply because we cannot imagine them disappearing. The drive-in belongs to the neighborhood as much as the school, the church, or the grocery store. People assume it will always wait at the edge of town, ready for another Friday evening. And for a long time, it does. Summer after summer, the lot fills again. The projector begins to turn. Light reaches across hundreds of cars. Families settle into familiar routines. The stars appear overhead. Everything feels exactly as it should. But beyond the screen, the world is beginning to move in another direction. New habits are arriving. New technology is entering living rooms. New roads are carrying people farther away. The drive-in still shines brightly, but somewhere in the distance, the first quiet changes have already begun. The evening still begins the same way. Cars turn off the highway. The ticket booth light glows softly. The concession stand opens its windows. The giant screen waits against the darkening sky exactly as it always has. But something feels different. There are a few empty spaces now. A row near the front remains half full. The back corner of the lot stays dark longer than it once did. Families still arrive, yet they no longer arrive all at once. The steady river of headlights has become smaller. The drive-in notices these things before anyone else does. The speaker poles stand quietly in the evening breeze. The paint on the concession stand begins to fade. The gravel lot develops patches of grass between the parking rows. Nothing seems serious. Not yet. One small fact quietly enters the story. By the early 1970s, television ownership had become nearly universal in American homes, giving families more entertainment without leaving the house. Living rooms begin to glow at night. Families gather around color televisions. New shows appear every week. Air conditioning becomes more common. Sofas become softer. Supper can stay on the kitchen table while entertainment comes directly into the home. The drive-in still offers something special, but it is no longer the only place to spend an evening. Teenagers begin finding other places to gather. Shopping malls grow larger. Fast food restaurants stay open later. New music fills car radios. The world outside the drive-in becomes louder and faster. Gasoline prices rise. Money feels tighter. Families think twice before loading everyone into the car. Some evenings remain crowded. Others feel strangely quiet. Employees notice first. The concession stand closes one window earlier than usual. Fewer workers are scheduled on weeknights. Light bulbs wait longer to be replaced. Repairs are postponed until next season. Next season becomes another season. The owners still believe things will return. After all, the drive-in has survived weather, changing movies, and passing years. It has always adapted before. The giant screen still shines. Children still laugh near the playground. Couples still park beneath the stars. Yet the feeling has changed in ways that are difficult to explain. If you grew up in this era, you remember a place like this. You remember noticing that the familiar crowd seemed smaller. You remember sitting farther apart from other cars. You remember realizing that some friends had simply stopped coming around the neighborhood. Houses continue to change. Families move away, children grow older, new residents arrive without memories connected to the drive-in. The place that once belonged to everyone now belongs mostly to those who remember its best years. Summer evenings become shorter. The excitement that once filled the entrance road begins to fade. Even the movies seem different. The drive-in tries special events, double features, family nights, discount tickets, extra attractions. The owners work hard because they believe the neighborhood still needs this place, and perhaps it does. But the neighborhood itself is changing. Roads widen, stores move farther away, large developments appear where open land once stood. The empty fields surrounding the drive-in slowly become valuable property. Developers notice what families no longer see. The land itself becomes worth more than the movies. Meanwhile, the screen continues to stand beneath the weather. Rain leaves marks, wind loosens small pieces of metal, speaker poles lean slightly, paint begins to peel. Nothing disappears all at once. Loss rarely works that way. Instead, familiar things become slightly less familiar. A broken sign, a dark section of the parking lot, a concession machine that no longer works, an evening with too many empty spaces. The regular customers notice these details. They mention them quietly while carrying popcorn back to their cars. They remember how busy the place used to be. Memory begins competing with the present, and memory usually wins. Still, every Friday evening, the ticket booth opens, the projector starts, the lights come on. The drive-in does everything it has always done. It waits for the neighborhood to return. Some nights the crowd appears, other nights the silence feels larger than the movie itself. The people who love this place continue coming because they cannot imagine the town without it. They believe there will always be another season, another summer, another evening beneath the stars. But time is moving differently now. The years that once passed gently begin moving faster, and somewhere ahead, although no one wants to speak of it, the final season is already approaching. For decades, the screen had watched over the neighborhood. Now the neighborhood is slowly looking away, and the long goodbye is beginning. Autumn arrives quietly. The air feels colder now. Leaves gather against the speaker poles. The concession stand windows open later in the evening. Cars enter the lot slowly, their headlights crossing rows that once filled before sunset. The drive-in still stands. The screen still rises above the neighborhood, but the sounds have changed. You no longer hear hundreds of voices mixing together. You hear individual conversations. You hear the wind moving across empty spaces. You hear footsteps inside the snack bar because there are fewer people waiting. The lot seems larger than it once did. One small fact remains in the background. By the late 1970s and early 1980s, many neighborhood drive-ins across America began closing as land values increased and attendance continued to fall. The owners know the numbers. The employees know them too. Fewer tickets, smaller crowds, another season that ends too soon. Still, nobody speaks directly about the future. People continue arriving because routines are difficult to abandon. A family parks in the same row they have used for years. A couple returns to the place where they once had their first date. Parents bring children who now seem more interested in other things. The drive-in becomes a place of remembering. People spend as much time talking about old evenings as they do watching the movie itself. Remember when the lot was full? Remember the long lines at the concession stand? Remember when we could hardly find a parking space? The memories begin to sit beside them in the car. Summer returns, but it feels shorter. The playground remains empty for long stretches. The paint on the ticket booth fades further. Several speaker boxes stop working and are never replaced. Small repairs wait for money that never arrives. The owners walk the property after closing. They check the projector. They lock the concession stand. They look across rows of empty gravel. Perhaps they remember the opening night. Perhaps they remember the years when headlights stretched all the way to the road. The drive-in has become quieter than anyone imagined. If you grew up in this era, you remember a place like this. You remember driving past and noticing fewer cars. You remember wondering whether it would still be there next summer. You remember feeling surprised that something so familiar could become uncertain. News travels slowly through town. People hear that the season may end early. Someone mentions that the property has been sold. Someone else says there may not be another year. Nobody wants to believe it. After all, the screen has always been there. The road still leads to it. The sign still stands near the entrance. How can something so large simply disappear? Yet the final evenings arrive without announcing themselves. Families attend one more show. Teenagers meet one more time. Employees work one more shift. Most people do not realize they are participating in the end of something. They buy popcorn. They find their favorite spaces. They watch the film. They drive home. The stars above. The screen remain unchanged. The projector still sends light into the darkness. The familiar speaker crackles beside the window. Everything appears normal, and perhaps that is what makes these final days so sad. There is no great event, no sudden disaster, only a long fading. A place that once sat at the center of neighborhood life slowly moves toward silence. The giant screen still waits beneath the night sky. The concession stand still glows. The entrance road still leads to the same familiar place, but now every evening feels borrowed, every movie feels temporary, every set of headlights feels precious. The drive-in has spent decades holding the memories of an entire community. Soon it will stand alone with them. And somewhere just ahead, one final night is waiting, when the lights will go dark and the neighborhood will quietly drive away. The final evening does not arrive with much attention. There are no television cameras, no crowds gathering outside the entrance, no speeches waiting beside the screen. The neighborhood drive-in simply opens its gates one more time as the sun begins to set. The ticket booth light glows softly. A few familiar cars enter the lot. People choose the same parking spaces they have used for years. Some know this may be the end. Others are not completely certain. Rumors have been drifting through town for months and nobody wants to believe them. The concession stand smells exactly the same. Popcorn, coffee, warm paper trays. The workers move quietly behind the counter. They smile at customers they have known for years. Change passes from hand to hand. Drinks fill with ice. Someone says goodnight and lingers a little longer than usual. Outside, the giant screen waits against the darkening sky. The movie begins. Light washes over the rows of cars one final time. Children fall asleep in back seats. Couples sit close together. Neighbors wave to one another across the gravel. For a few hours, everything feels unchanged. Perhaps that is the gift the drive-in offers at the very end. It allows people to experience one ordinary evening, even while something extraordinary is slipping away. The credits eventually appear. Engines begin starting one by one. Headlights move slowly toward the exit road. People wave through open windows. Some promise to return next summer before remembering there may not be a next summer at all. The concession lights go dark. The projector stops turning. The speaker boxes fall silent. The last employee locks the doors. And then the lot becomes still. The giant screen stands alone beneath the stars. No music drifts through the air. No laughter crosses the rows. The breeze moves gently between empty speaker poles. Morning arrives quietly. Sunlight touches the parking spaces where hundreds of cars once gathered. Paper cups remain near a few curbs. The concession stand sits closed. The ticket booth window reflects an empty road. The neighborhood passes by. People slow their cars. They look toward the screen. Some continue driving. Others stop. For a moment, unable to explain what they are feeling, days become weeks. The sign disappears. The speaker poles come down. The weeds grow taller. Eventually the screen itself is removed, leaving only open sky where light once lived, and the silence that follows feels larger than anyone expected, because the loss is not only the theater. It is the Friday evenings, the first dates, the sleeping children, the familiar road at sunset. A place that once gathered an entire neighborhood has quietly stepped aside. The stars still appear every evening, but now there is nothing beneath them except an empty field and the memories people carry home. Maybe you remember a place like this in your own town, not necessarily a drive-in. Perhaps it was a bowling alley beside the highway, a small diner that stayed open late, a skating rink filled with music and colored lights, somewhere that seemed permanent simply because it had always been there. And then one day it wasn't. The strange thing about places like these is that we rarely realize they are becoming memories. We assume there will be another summer, another Friday evening, another chance to drive down the familiar road. Life becomes busy. Children grow up, jobs change, neighborhoods spread outward, and while we are looking somewhere else, a place quietly slips away. The neighborhood drive-in was never only about movies. It was about arriving together. It was about sitting beneath the same sky with hundreds of other people and feeling connected, even without speaking. It was about children asleep under blankets, teenagers discovering independence, parents finding a few peaceful hours at the end of a long week. For many people, these memories remain sharper than the films themselves. You may not remember what was playing on the screen, but you remember the smell of popcorn, you remember the warm speaker hanging beside the window, you remember the sound of gravel beneath tires as cars slowly left the lot. If you grew up in this era, you remember a place like this, and even if you did not, perhaps you recognize the feeling. Every town seems to have a place that once held its people together, a place where ordinary evenings became important simply because they were shared. The empty field that remains cannot tell that story. The missing screen cannot explain it. Only the people who were there can. That may be why these places stay with us for so long. They become small containers for entire seasons of our lives. They hold first dates, family traditions, summer nights, and moments that seemed unimportant at the time. Years later, we discover they were never unimportant at all. The drive-in disappeared quietly, but somewhere. Someone still remembers the road leading toward it at sunset. Someone still remembers the speaker crackling to life. Someone still remembers looking up at the stars while the movie played. And perhaps as we sit here together remembering it, the lights come on one more time. The road is quiet now. The ticket booth is gone. The speaker poles have disappeared. The giant screen that once caught the last light of evening has become part of the sky again, yet some places never truly leave us. We carry them in small ways, in the smell of popcorn drifting from a theater lobby, in the sound of gravel beneath tires, in the feeling of warm summer air moving through an open car window. The neighborhood drive-in may be gone, but the evenings it gave us remain. They live inside old photographs, inside family stories, inside memories that return without warning many years later. A familiar song, a distant movie screen, the sight of headlights gathering at sunset. Some places don't survive, but they're never really gone. If this evening brought back a memory, leave a comment and share it with us. Tell us about the drive-in, theater, diner, or neighborhood place that once belonged to your town. And if you enjoy bringing these lost places back to life, subscribe to The Way We Were so we can continue walking these forgotten roads together, because every memory shared keeps these places alive a little longer. The stars still appear each night. The summer air still moves through the trees, and somewhere in the distance you can almost hear a speaker crackle beside an open car window. Which lost place should we bring back next?